But let's start with this. I love all the instructors, and the vetting process of hiring the best candidates is clearly seen in AlMaghrib. So you have a camaraderie, a brotherhood, a fraternity of people that love each other, support each other, want the best for each other, and it's all grounded in Islam. Number two, its leadership has always been phenomenal. A leadership based upon a prophetic model that is based on this deen and spreading it far and wide and educating the masses about Islam. And I think that concept of being united for spreading the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is perhaps one of the most beautiful things you can see in any organization. And then last but not least, in terms of why AlMaghrib, they've also been perhaps one of the most supportive organizations that I've ever worked with, in the sense that if there's any skill set that I wanted to develop, they were at the forefront of encouraging me in developing that skill set. And that's so rare to find within Muslim organizations, that you find an organization that wants to support its employees, its contractors, its teachers, that build your skill set because we want to see you succeed not only in AlMaghrib, but outside whatever else you're doing. Before AlMaghrib came onto the scene, there were just your typical halaqas. There weren't weekend seminars, there weren't weekend workshops. AlMaghrib really revolutionized that. And one of the things that it did was that when it aligned itself with masajid, those masajid came to life. They brightened up, not only for the salahs, but even for the halaqas, the Jummah khutbahs. People wanted to be there. So I think it created a sense of community within the community, because there is masajid everywhere, but not everyone will feel at home at a masjid. But when AlMaghrib came to town and affiliated with a masjid, that masjid started to feel like home, and people started to feel at home at that masjid. So that's something that we really see, that once AlMaghrib came into town, that greater sense of community and that greater sense of belonging came about. Number two, a sense of, this quote that I've always shared, that either you unite on something good, and that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses you for, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends a common enemy that forces you to unite. AlMaghrib was always that common good, where people across the community in different realms of work all came together to help promote the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and create a sense of loving knowledge. And then third and last is that when you look at the impact thereafter, in the old AlMaghrib model, when you had double weekends, that week in between, you're like, I can't wait till the second weekend. But now that that model doesn't exist as much, it's now about, okay, one class is over, when can we have the next? And I want you to think about that for a second. When was the last time that with regards to something religious, you said to yourself, I can't wait till it happens again? And that's what AlMaghrib brought to the community. What AlMaghrib did for the dawah so far. Like, it revolutionized the concept of Islamic education from, it doesn't have to be you traveling overseas only and you only attending your halaqat, but there is this version of you could attend in person and suit your lifestyle and the time that you have available. And now the pandemic changed all of that as well. Like, AlMaghrib drastically had to alter the way that it approaches education. And I think that's what's going to continue to happen. That when we look at different trends in Islamic education, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, I see AlMaghrib being at the forefront. And what I really love about this concept is that when we were restricted to in-person classes only, places where the people love AlMaghrib and its instructors and the deen that is taught through AlMaghrib, like India, like Pakistan, like Bangladesh, like Indonesia, where we can't physically be, they now have access to it. So what I see happening in the future is this old qabila system of having a fraternity and having, a close-knit community, bringing that online, right? Not just globally, but even locally. Like, how do you create online chapters where people still get together to study and revise and practice and implement and create mutual love that's based upon learning at a local level online? So I think that's something that I would love to see. I would also love to see even the way that it revolutionizes AI in its teaching, right? GBT is this whole thing that's changing everything now. How is that going to impact, Islamic education? I think that's something that AlMaghrib will be exploring and will be bringing about, as well as artificial intelligence in other realms as well. If you want to support Islamic education and you want to sustain Islamic education and you want to create an Islamic identity for your youth that is not contradictory with Western values, and the places that they live, then that's why you need to support AlMaghrib. So my first memory with AlMaghrib, believe it or not, is actually two things. So number one was when I got the contract, because I remember I was sitting in Medina on my desktop And I'm like, Allahu Akbar, I can't believe someone wants to hire me. So that was my first like vivid memory of Al-Maghrib. But that's just in terms of like the contract. The second thing was, prior to that, was seeing Shaykh Muhammad al-Sharif rahimahullahu rahmatan wasi'ah teach Usul al-Fiqh. Usul al-Fiqh is a very dense topic. Very difficult to approach, very difficult to teach, very difficult to keep, students' attention in the class. But seeing Shaykh Muhammad rahimahullah come up with his, unique terminology and vernacular, like bucket list and football, field goal, and all this other stuff that he was teaching in class, made it a very unique experience. And I think that's when I learned that, Islamic education can actually be fun. So it's not about being engaging alone, but it's actually being fun. And that's what Shaykh Muhammad rahimahullah brought to the class. And then Shaykh Muhammad has mentioned this a couple of times to me and publicly, but the reason why he hired me, because in that class, I asked him, how do I become, the best teacher possible? And that's what led him eventually to hire me. So I would say that is perhaps my first two memories. Now, my most fond memory of Al-Maghrib Institute, I think, was probably when I taught my last class. So I taught the Prophet's Smile for the last time in Scotland. And at that time, I had sort of made up my mind that I wasn't going to be teaching as much. And a couple of things happened. Obviously, the class didn't know that, but inside I knew it. So I gave it my best effort and, tried to deliver it as best as possible. So it was a very emotional experience, which obviously transferred into the class. Like till this day, people still come up to me and they're like, hey, I remember the Prophet's Smile in Scotland. And I was like, Allahu Akbar. But something funny came out of that. This is like, the internet never forgets. There was this young brother, probably 14, 15 years old. He's like, you changed my life. Do you mind if I take a picture with you? I'm like, sure, no problem. So we take a picture together. He puts it up on social media and he says, best day of my life. And someone puts in the comment section, is that DJ Khalid? And that's something I will never forget. And the internet is not forgotten, because every couple of years now, someone always brings it back up and tags me in it. So yeah, those are some of my fond memories of Al-Maghrib. It was a very difficult moment in my life when I came back from Medina University, because I had sort of made up my mind that I don't want to become an imam. But as a graduate of an Islamic institute, if you don't want to become an imam, what do you do? And I remember that he had come to Montreal and we went on this retreat to Mount Tremblant. And one late night, we had this conversation in terms of, okay, what do I want to do in the future? What do I enjoy? And where is my heart at? And eventually, we came to the conclusion that the best thing that you can do is to be in the service of people, to be in the service of community. And if you enjoy that even a little bit, then that's what you need to pursue. So I think in terms of growth, there's a lot that I owe to Shaykh Muhammad after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in terms of public speaking skills, his ABCD of public speaking. Till this day, I still use that. Number two, in terms of making content fun and engaging, that's always at the forefront of my mind, because he created this burden, and I use that word intentionally, that we literally make or break people's Islam. If we make it relevant, fun, and engaging, inshallah, they become proud, confident Muslims. But if we make it boring and, burdensome on them, then this is, one of those things that perhaps they may end up leaving Islam. They may end up hating Islam. They may not end up liking Islam as much as they should. So I think that really created a mindset of you have to try your best and strive for your best. And then last but not least, the concept of professionalism, right? I have never seen anyone that brought a degree of professionalism to Islamic education and to Islamic work like Shaykh Muhammad rahimahullahu ta'ala did. And till this day, I stand by those principles that we learned. When you look at this concept of identity, prior to Al-Maghrib, there was nothing on a national or international level that brought people together and created a sense of community. So I think that is what Al-Maghrib has brought, is a sense of pride in Islam, a sense of community, a sense of confidence, a sense of relevance of their faith to their worldly life. It's brought all of those things, and it's impossible just to isolate one and pinpoint one. So I would say all of those things combined. Like Al-Maghrib is its instructors, right? And its staff. It's the people, right? So my dua for Al-Maghrib and everyone that is affiliated is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps us sincere, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unites our hearts, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grounds us in the sunnah, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us of those whom they are accepted from, particularly ilm as a sadaqah jariyah on their behalf.